I think there's this sense that, and I think you could equate it to a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's this thing, like, whenever, like, someone like a Ted Bundy's caught, where, like, how did your wife, or like John Wayne Gacy, right? You're like, how did you not know? But, or like the, he just got caught. The Golden State Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like, how did you not know? We always are like, how,
But people don't know.
But yeah, you don't, and that's why they're so good at what they do.
And they keep doing it.
Yeah, I kind of...
I also know somebody who, we're not friends, I just know this person, and their significant other was abusing one of their children, and it took them like a year to find out.
Yeah.
They really didn't know.
I know, and I'm guilty of the same thing. A lot of times we want to have that initial reaction of like, you had to know. Come on, you lived with them. But
no.
And on top of that, you don't want to think that. Like, let's say there was a sign. You don't want to believe that.
That's not the first thing your mind would go to.
So that would stop you from knowing too. Like, if Evan didn't come home one night, you wouldn't be like, he's out raping someone, or you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
you don't, so
I'd just be like, oh, he's being a lazy procrastinator.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what you would jump to.
Yeah.
So in the 6th grade, Angel was keeping the secret about her dad. And that's the time that school kids started teasing her too. So just like unrelated, but something that started happening. It started with teasing her about her freckles and red hair. She had freckles and like really cute, long, like strawberry red hair. And Angel started also putting on a little bit of weight as she hit puberty, which is not uncommon at all.
Yeah, girl, me too.
Yeah, and she wasn't obese. Not that that would make it any different or okay, but like she just put on a little weight, This caused, quote unquote, because putting on weight is never the cause of bullying. It's people being dicks that's the cause of bullying.
Yes.
But this caused classmates to bully her about her body, but it was about to get a lot worse. So before I go into her case, I want to talk a little bit about bullying in general and some statistics that I looked up. So bullying is a super big issue for kids, teens, adults. Like, we know that it's there. And usually as adults, we have a pretty good understanding of how to cope with it, how to address it, those kinds of things. Or at least we have resources needed when available for the most part. And if there's for the most part, also, we can leave the situation. Now, of course, not all the time, not in domestic abuse cases necessarily, but if someone's bullying you at work, you can be like, okay, peace out. Like, I'm not listening to you. Students who experience frequent bullying score lower in math, science, and reading, which I thought was interesting. Of course, it's not everyone, like our gal here. She was excelling, but when you're bullied, you're more likely to have issues in those categories. 79% of bullying is verbal. 50% is social, so like isolation and things like that. 29% is physical. That's pretty high.
That is high.
It's almost 1 in 3.
Well, and on top of what your first point was, and I was actually talking to someone about this today, so like timing is great, but so I personally, I'll equate this to me. I'm very lucky that I was never like people made fun of me, sure, for different things, but there's also this thing like, I'm 28 now, and I've heard a lot of people say that as you get older, you care less what people think. But I've heard like people like, oh, once you're in your 30s or your 40s, like you don't give a shit. I feel that more in my late 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm where they're at. Like, I hope to feel less, but I know that me now, like if I compare 28 even to like 25.
Oh, sure.
There's this, when you're younger, especially when you're a younger middle school, high school, whatever, you need people to like you. Like, I remember...
The validation's vital.
Yeah, I wanted 50 friends. Like, 2 friends was not enough. You want everyone to like you. You want everyone to be your friend. You really care what people think. And then it's like, as you get older, it becomes more about weeding out bad people and less about having 30 friends. Like...
I remember even on MySpace when I was like 15, like the amount was important to me and my friends.
Where
and
now
I'm like
top friends.
Now I'm like, ew, I have 500. I don't know 500 people. Let me take these out.
Well, and recently, I personally ran into a situation where, kind of a bullying situation, where this girl decided she didn't like something I said, and I personally think that what I said was very kind.
I was going to say, it's fine because it came from a place of, like, shared meaning.
Yeah. I was trying to have a conversation, and I got bullied. I got called names, like, really bad names.
Really
and
mean
then
names.
It became something, at first it was like, oh, you're a piece of shit, Caitlin, because I don't agree with you. But then it was like, oh, you're also a bad friend, and you're also this, and you're also a stupid millennial, and it escalated into this crazy thing. And I think if that would have happened to me a couple years... And it bothered me a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But I think if that would have happened to me a couple years ago, I would have been like, oh my God, person who's bullying me, I'm so sorry. I need you to like me.
Yeah.
But at this point in my life, I was like, you know what bothers me? It hurt my feelings, but also like, I don't want someone like you in my life.
Yeah, I don't have room for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess my whole point is like at this age, you need people. Like it's...
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing too, is if you are younger listening to this, say like 18 or 19 or whatever, like, and you hear people say, oh, you don't care as much when you get older, it's somehow true. I don't know why it's true. I was quite a sensitive child.
Yeah.
And I needed everyone to love me. And now as I'm older, it's not that you don't care, it's still painful, but it's that you can see that that's that person's issue and it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, and I'll admit, my first reaction when this girl started attacking me, and it was all verbal, but when she started calling me names...
It was social, too, like in isolation.
Oh, yeah. It was on a social media platform, like name calling. It was very verbal, and I was proud not to call her names. But I will admit, my gut reaction was, oh my God, I need to prove to her that I'm a good person. Like, I need her to see that I need her to believe I'm not a bad person. Like, my gut reaction was like, I need to apologize to her. And then I was like, no, like, stop it, Caitlin. So I still have that gut reaction, but I'm learning, like, no, that's a her problem.
And how good you are is irrelevant to whether or not she would stop doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't, I'm never going to convince you that I'm a good person. And it's not I don't need to convince you I'm a good person.
If you ever want to read a great book about communicating with others... well, I wasn't going to say Crucial Conversations, but that's
okay.
I
thought you were going to say Crucial Conversations. I read it after you.
It's so good.
Crucial Conversations.
It changed my life.
I bought it right after you told me about it, and I read it immediately.
Another one that's great that I read is The Four Agreements. And I'm just going to say this flat out because if you're religious, that's great. I don't believe in, like, a God or anything like that. I'm kind of more spiritual. Like, kind of like the universe and things like that. Mm-hmm. This book does bring up a religion of one deity a lot. But if you can take his personal anecdotes, the author's personal anecdotes with a grain of salt, and just look at what he's saying, it's very, very helpful. Yeah. So if you're religious, you'll love it. If you're not religious, if you're willing to overlook those anecdotes, it is surprisingly poignant.
Yeah. I do think, though, I'm also not very religious, or not really, I'm not religious at all, but... I've read religious texts, and there's still something to learn from them. Exactly. Like, whether you agree with the principle or see it as fact or fiction, like, there's still... I love learning other people's point of view and other perspectives, and we're getting on a whole different tangent, but...
It's important.
Yeah, and I like how I have friends who politically believe, and I think this is why it hurt me so much that I got bullied for having a different opinion.
When you came at it with kindness.
Yeah, well, and I have friends who think about religion differently than me. I have friends who have different political beliefs. If I hang out with only people who believe the same thing as me, I'm never going to grow as a person.
No, of course not.
And if you don't like me because we have a different opinion, you can't talk about it, that's like...
yeah, then what are we ever going to talk about?
Yeah, if you only want to hang out with people who 100% agree with you, you're never going to grow.
I don't have room for that.
Sorry for this long tangent. We'll stop.
Yes, but I agree with all the things that were said. Okay, so back to my story about Angelina Green.
Yes, back to your story, gosh.
So, the students score less. We looked at the statistics of how bullying takes place. So the older a child gets, the less likely they are to report it to an adult.
The older they get?
The older they get. So as they hit puberty and older, they're probably less likely to say anything than they would if they're 7.
That makes sense.
Yeah. However, 57% of bullying stops when an unrelated peer intervenes and sticks up for the person. So say you're getting bullied. It's a little relentless. It's happened a lot. If I'm like, yo, stop. Stop messing with Caitlin. I'm done seeing this. This is inappropriate, blah, blah. 57% of the time.
Oh my God. 70% of the time, that scares me every time.
Our sound system for our new setup just fell. Because it wasn't clamped on tight enough, I guess. And it was really scary, and it seemed like a ghost.
Yeah, I just legitimately had a heart attack.
You okay? What's your heart rate? High for you?
75.
You're a psychopath.
My heart rate is...
Mine's 76. 94.
My heart rate is normally between 60 and 65.
One's an athlete, if you didn't know.
She is.
Yeah, go with it.
She totally, wink, wink, is...
So, 57% of the time it stops.
That makes sense, though, because bullies pick on quote-unquote weak people.
Yeah,
and
people who
you're
won't stick
weak, quote-unquote, if you're alone.
Yeah, but if someone else sticks up for you, they're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Fear in numbers.
I'll find someone else, yeah.
About 25% of bullying takes place online. 60% of young people have witnessed online bullying, but most do nothing.
I wonder how recent that fact is, though. That's got to be like now, like nowadays, right?
Yeah, these facts were within the last like 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So now we know.
So that's not from the 80s?
So this isn't from 14...
All the bullying is online.
This is from 1934.
1934.
Now,
Columbus sailed the ocean floor.
The ocean. So we know how important it is as a peer to tell someone to stop. But this can be hard, and reaching out to someone being bullied in private can also help if you're afraid to intervene in a public situation. So if you're like, man, I'm afraid of this bully too, I don't want to say anything, reaching out privately also shows that it can help the victim. And then last case scenario, you can always, not last case scenario, but another thing you can do is you can report someone for bullying, obviously. So Angel Green, she's in the 8th grade. She's been dealing with bullies for about 2 years. About her weight, her freckles, her red hair. People just calling her mean things. Danielle knows that this is going on, which Danielle is Angel's mom. Mm-hmm. It's all verbal and social, from what Danielle knows. Belittling her, name-calling, isolating her, not letting her sit with people at the lunchroom, things like that. So around this time, Angel told Danielle, or Danielle happened to find out, about her dad molesting her. Mm-hmm. So this comes to light. Mm-hmm. And Danielle was mortified and pressed charges against him. And Angel's life became more difficult because Angel was 13 years old, and she was not only being teased, ridiculed, and bullied by classmates, but she was now also part of a trial against her own father, where she had to talk in front of people about her painful abuse, which even as an adult, when you've been through abuse, sometimes you cannot talk about it at all. Angel's father pled guilty, received 18 years, but Angel would only find a little relief in this because of what happened next. So her attacker was put away, her dad, but somehow soon her classmates found out about this, and they started ridiculing her for those events related to the sexual assault, making fun of her for having sex with her dad, and like for like things like that when it was against her will, and continuously calling her names like slut, whore, things like that. They would trip her, they pushed her, they threw garbage at her, all sorts of things like that. So it was really hard on Angel, and she had never really had it easy. Already being made fun of for looking different than her classmates, but now being made fun of for this traumatizing event that she had been part of, that she had no part of. Mm-hmm. So school was suddenly a lot harder for her. So Angel started seeing a school counselor kind of on her own will. Mm-hmm. And then she also started seeing a therapist that Danielle, her mom, had set up for her. And she was diagnosed with depression. And so to treat the depression, Angel was prescribed an antidepressant. So they were doing things. Things didn't really look up for Angel. So Danielle, her mom, started finding suicide notes that Angel had written, and it was like things where she hadn't committed suicide, but it was like notes where it seemed like she was trying to plan a note. Her classmates continuously told her she was beyond worthless, and for years they told her this, and when Angel was 14, it all caught up with her. So on March 5th of 2013, Angel was 14. She woke up a little bit earlier than normal on March 5th. It was a school day. It was a Tuesday in the Lafayette, and spring was on its way. It was a nice day. Angel got dressed. No one else was awake. Her mom wasn't awake. Her siblings. She wrote a short letter, which would be her last letter. And Angel went down to the bus stop where she got picked up for school. Danielle woke up where the normal time where she would wake up Angel. And Angel wasn't in the house, which Danielle was like, where's Angel? Really unusual. So Angel wasn't one to miss or skip school, but Danielle thought maybe she just left early. So Danielle went down the street to the school bus stop to be like, maybe she's just sitting here waiting. She approached the bus stop, but she saw police lights and heard sirens and things like that. And there was a classmate who didn't really know Angel, but rode the bus. And the classmate was standing a bit back from the siren lights, and Danielle said, "Hey, what's going on down here?" And the girl said, "Some girl is hanging from a tree at the bus stop." Aww. And Danielle said she just knew. Like, she was like, at that moment, she didn't see anything, but she just knew what it was. So Angel had hanged herself from a tree at the school bus stop because she wanted her bullies to see what they had done to her. Then she left a letter that her mom found. It said, "Dear Mom, I'm really sorry that I did this. Don't you ever think it was your fault, because it's not. Why did I deserve this pain? Have you ever thought about what you said to me?" And so this part is not about her mom. Maybe not. Because you killed me every day. You told me so much that I started believing it. And I was stupid for doing that. Every morning, day, night, I looked in the mirror and I cried, and I replayed the harmful words in my head. Angelina Green. P.S. It's bullying that killed me. Please get justice. PSS,